We are taught by the architects of propaganda, the map makers of the mind, the spin doctors, that our liberty means an American flag and the Statue of Liberty. That America is about being able to have a mohawk if you want, or a crew cut. No, ladies and gentlemen, it is about the Bill of Rights and Constitution. It's about not having a carbon tax and bureaucrats doing home inspections and shutting down all our factories and ranches. It's about not having an animal and premises ID written up by the big agribusinesses a few years ago, being forced on farmers and ranchers, where they got to have a $20 tag on a $5 chicken, but Tyson chicken is exempt. They don't have to have the tag on their chickens. They have one tag per giant building with tens of thousands of chickens. It's meant to bankrupt the small farms and ranches, harass you, come on your property. They're SWAT teaming Amish selling milk to themselves and butter. They're SWAT teaming in the news, people selling farm-raised eggs on the side of the highway, watermelons. They're SWAT teaming people that sell their neighbor's milk. I mean, this is in the news every week. SWAT teams come in and bust in. They're making living on the land, not being dependent in some compact control grid city. They're making that terrorism. And they're training the police and military that gun owners, veterans, and conservatives are terrorists. We're the folks that broke the MIAC report. We're the folks that broke the DHS report. And now it's in mainstream news. They're training the U.S. military to take on conservative gun owners. The whole Northcom, anti-terror, anti-Al-Qaeda system that conservatives thought was for Al-Qaeda is for you. And the Army Times admits that. Number one threat, gun-owning Americans. There have been big new developments on that front, and that's coming up after Bob Chapman leaves us. Right now, let's go to calls with Bob Chapman, theinternationalforecaster.com. John in Ohio, you're on the air with Bob Chapman. Go ahead.
Yeah, hello, Bob. Hello, Alex. Alex, first-time caller, and I've studied your stuff for a while, and I got to say, I had started paying attention to stuff like this, listening to Mark Kornke of the Michigan Militia and other guys back in the late 90s, and it's a real eye-opener, and you've done a great job, I think, opening our eyes on a lot of these things. But what I wanted to ask you about and ask Bob about is the idea of mind control. Now, I know one thing that the communists said years ago. Of course, we know the communists are funded by the globalists. If you control the language that a people speak, you can control their minds.
And they've been dumbing the language down. They've been reducing it. A lot of the public really can't even hardly talk. They just kind of grunt now. And that's why the feds always increase the public education funding, because public education is a great success. It's meant to dumb them down. The war on drugs was a great success. Triple the heroin, double the cocaine, from a couple 100,000 in prison to over 4 million in prison. The whole society collapsing, trillions laundered to the banks in the last decade. It's a great success. The war on terror is meant to take all our liberties and freedoms. Great success. The war on illiteracy, great success. Dumb people down. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Bob a little bit about the Kennedy conspiracy. I was watching this morning. They had that, of course, that hatchet piece that Mr. Jennings did before he passed away, the JFK Beyond the Conspiracy on ABC, where they claimed they could simulate exactly with the films how all of this happened. And I noticed during the whole thing, and then there was another documentary on Abraham Lincoln, they used very specific words, to kind of like, well, Robert Dallek, the famous historian, says, well, people just can't accept that life is very random and things happen, and conspiracies make them feel emotionally better. And, I noticed that they do that. They speak in tones, and they try to, and it is a way to kind of lull you to sleep.
Bob?
Propaganda is one of the greatest tools of government. That was proven during the 1930s, not only in Germany, but in the United States, and to some extent in Japan. And, of course, it's evolved from American advertising through the years, and now you have people who are on the air who give you 95% of the truth, and then the other 5% is either misdirection, misinformation, or it's pure propaganda and mind control. And there's a number of people doing this. And it's hard to prove that they are doing it, but, you know them by what they do.
John, I appreciate your call. Look, I had the Wall Street Journal here doing a big profile on me. It's a 1,300-word front section profile Pretty scary, actually, to get that kind of attention. And it's always the same question. And she admitted that's what the university professors she goes to interview always say. They need to simplify the world and imagine someone's in control. It's too scary to know that 19 guys from a cave did this, so they make it up. No, it's much scarier to know there's a global empire. We have thousands of their own documents. They're openly announcing their world empire. And I had Psychology Today calling me up for a big cover story. And I would say, is there a world government? Are they announcing it on the news? And the guy would just say, what happened in your childhood that makes you believe this? And I said, it's in Newsweek called New World Order, saying it's a global bank to rule the United States and knock our heads when we're bad. That's a quote. And they're open. I mean, I made a film 2 years ago called Endgame talking about the carbon tax and how it was a tax. And people say I'm a conspiracy theorist as they announce it's a tax. I mean, it's a mind game they play. And a lot of people don't respect themselves, so it works on them. You didn't read an article, Alex, that said New World Order was a global government. Nobody's saying New World Order, Alex. Now, don't be a kook like Pat Buchanan. I saw Scarborough making fun of Buchanan the other day on TV. I saw a clip. Oh, yeah, Buchanan says it's a world government. Uh-huh. You know, that clip we played last hour. If they're openly announcing world government and then laughing at us when we go, look, we don't want your world tax. They go, there's no such thing as a carbon tax. We just passed it in the House. It's a mind game. And I guess it works. It's like a Jedi mind trick on these idiots. But I'm like Jabba the Hutt, folks. It doesn't work on me. Ho, 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 teeny Jedi. I mean, what? These flim-flam scammers, as they openly set up Bank of the World to rule us and turn loose all their bureaucrats on us, they say it doesn't exist. Bob, how do you get the chicken neck cowardly public out there? And I don't mean the whole public, but those that can't understand this is real. What do we do about them? Just move on? Triage?
We have to continue to put out the information that we are until their bellies are empty. And that's what's going to make them move. They lose their home, they lose their cars, they lose their job, and they're living under a bridge with a trolley from the supermarket. And all their worldly goods are in there, and they're wondering where the next meal is going to come from. And that's when half of the population in America will act.
And then the police are going to mow them down.
Nature.
And the police are probably going to mow down their own grandmother in the crowd. It won't matter. They'll be wearing the black uniform, and they'll have American flags on their cars as they burn the Bill of Rights. I love America. Come on, police and military, wake up. Let's take another call. Because you're going to be used to carry out this tyranny. We're not saying you're the enemy, but the enemy's using you. You're taking orders from the offshore banks. Period. It's a fact. Congress admits it. In fact, Google for folks. Top Democrat says bankers run Congress, and you'll find 20 articles or so, because all these top leaders, Republican and Democrat, the leader of the Senate, the leader of the House, have said, yeah, foreign banks run us. Well, you know, it's our new masters. Yeah, we're taking over with continuity of government. We're preparing to fight with the American people. We know they're not going to want it, but we're owned now by foreign banks through fraud. It's illegitimate. Jack in South Carolina, you're on the air with Bob Chapman. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Alex, just want to wish y'all a happy pre-4th of July. And got really two questions. First one's for Bob. How do we change this country in a peaceful way when we cannot trust the voting machines? What's to keep the NWO from rigging the voting machines?
They've been caught rigging them everywhere. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. But
well,
how do we do that, Bob?
Yeah, well, obviously, that is impossible if they're going to continue to be allowed to rig them. So maybe that avenue is no longer open to us. We're going to find something out about that when finally we get this 1207 Ron Paul, let's investigate the Fed bill out of committee, if we can get it out of committee. Barney Frank, that famous American citizen, and incidentally, I get some real good stuff on him and some others in this issue coming out tomorrow, but I want you to go and get a free copy so you can read it for yourself. But Barney Frank and Nancy Pelosi are holding that captive right now, and as Alex said, they have some 255 sponsors. There's a lot of heat being generated by constituents on people in Congress, and maybe that's the way we have to approach this, is if we can't control who's going to go in there, let's terrify them
Exactly.
Once they get there.